All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Mycelium Dialogues. We moved to this new format of webinar based podcasting, and I think this is the perfect episode to make that shift. We created Mycelium Dialogues as a platform to explore unique intersections of nature, sustainability, and investments with some truly insightful minds. If you haven't seen our first episode with Harpreet Singh, we'll have the link somewhere in the description. Harpreet and I delved into the influence of nature on children, his thoughts on the agenda of the world, and I urge you to check it out when you can. It's an absolute pleasure to have sat down with Harpreet. For a lot of you who don't know me, I grew up in Coimbatore, a beautiful small city south of India. And whenever I visited this city of mine, I'm struck by this powerful sense of nostalgia. The sights, the familiar roads, all sort of bring a flood of childhood memories back to me. It's as if there is a magnetic pull back to my own roots, and I think this feeling is mutual with almost every species, as it turns out. Take migratory birds, for example. These incredible creatures travel thousands of miles across continents, always finding their way back home, guided by the Earth's magnetic field. I believe this connection to our roots gives us a sense of identity, belonging, and even a purpose for that matter. It grounds us in our values. I think that's how I'd like to sum it. Today, I'm actually super excited to dive into this very topic of tracing our roots back to India with none other than Arun Mani. I first met Arun back in 2015 when we both joined Freshworks a few weeks apart. And from the first meeting, I knew he's a special leader. He was a special leader. His calm demeanor, a genuine curiosity about the other person, what they have to say, his knack for asking the right questions at the right time, and his perfectionist approach to getting things done. These are all some qualities I observed, I noticed during the years we worked together. And as I got to know Arun, I realized, and it became very clear to me that Arun leads from his heart. So fast forward to 2022, when I left the corporate world and joined Mycelium Ecology. Little did I know that our paths would cross again, Arun. But all these qualities I admired in him turned out to be an incredibly important and a perfect fit for a collective member at Dancing Frog Habitat. So I am honored, and it's such a pleasure to sit down this afternoon, beautiful afternoon here in Bangalore. I'm assuming it's the same in Portugal as well. Thank you for joining us, Arun, on this second edition of Mycelium Dialogues.
Thank you, Vinod. Thanks for the kind introduction. I think the feeling is mutual. I still remember our first meeting, and we were both going after a very large client, and there was a lot of memories. It was a tough endeavor, but what I always vividly remember is how you were so focused on making sure everybody felt good about themselves, how you led the team and made sure everybody's comfortable. And I'm super happy to work with you again or be part of the commune that you founded and the purpose that with which you are leading. So really excited for this
Thank you.
conversation.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks. And I think the fact that this is a podcast makes me have all your attention without the participants, so that makes it better. But before we dive into our main discussion, we wanted to kick things off by our customary rapid fire round. So it's 5 questions, and whatever word comes to your mind between A or B, you could tell us. And if you could add a bonus why, that'll be wonderful. So let's go with it. The first question is sunrise or sunset?
sunrise.
Sunrise.
It's
All right.
why because it's rare. I don't get to see it as often as I would like to, but it just the air is much more clearer and crisper for me. Yeah, I like it.
Love it. Love it. Holiday by the beach or trek up a mountain?
Wow. For me, it's a trek up the mountain. Very much so to be in the woods and the clear, crisp air. I
Yeah.
really love it.
I love it. Two clear, crisp air. The first and the second has that as your criteria. So, if you were a tree, what kind would you be?
Wow, this is a tough one. Um, I would say I like banyan tree. Uh, and for those of you who don't know, banyan tree is this very, very iconic tree in the South Asian part of the world. And this tree can grow to acres broader. It's not a tree that grows really, really tall, but it is tall. But at the same time, it spreads and it has these hanging roots coming from its branches. And the moment they touch the ground, they become another trunk, more or less. So there was this famous tree where I lived near Adair. It used to be very, very iconic in the sense it was multiple acres, I believe. Then it got struck by lightning or something. But anyway, what I like about that is like it is our duty to continuously spread in the sense of giving the opportunity for others who we are actually helping by being that core trunk. But at the
Yeah.
same time, they all land and we spread the joy, spread. And as typical banyan tree is where the villagers hang around. It's an iconic thing for Indian villages, but also for so much wildlife. It's like it's a home to many, 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 many animals you can think of.
They're a keystone species primarily for that reason because they have more ecosystems dependent. And I actually had a feeling when I wrote this that you're going to say a banyan tree. Somehow the alamaram came in my mind. So
Yeah.
I think I know a bit of you now. What hobby did you pick up recently? Any hobby you picked up recently?
Oh, I started swimming in the ocean, which is the key thing is, you ask when will you go on a trek on a mountain or ocean? I grew up always by the sea. The sea was always there. It was always accessible and so on and so forth. And but growing up in India, swimming in the sea was not a thing. It was not, even though I did quite a bit, it was not encouraged. Often it was, I would say, warned against and so on. But here it's beautiful near Portugal and in Cascais Bay. There's a big group of swimmers who swim, and I got encouraged. It's a little cold, so you have to wear a wetsuit and all. But it's the most, I would say, cathartic moment in the sense that if you swim, and if you go early enough, you can catch a sunrise, and as you swim, you are taking a breath and you look at it,
Wow.
nothing like it. And the water is so fresh and clear, actually, you can see the floor. And so this is something that I started. I wish I could do pretty much every day, but I try to do at least once a week.
Nice. Nice, nice, great, great. And finally, what is your favorite book of all time?
Ooh, all time. That's a difficult one. Um, I guess I would say maybe Tuesdays with Maury. It's a book about the other one I also liked recently. Maybe both are about death. It's when breath becomes air, and both if you had a chance, it's look about it like when death stares at you, how it puts perspective about a lot of the petty things we deal with, and how there is so much reason to celebrate every moment that you're alive and kicking.
Yeah,
So I would
my favorite
recommend
as
I'll
well.
say topic. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's my favorite book. Both are great, but Kalani's this thing is also beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, I think a book is a good segue because I think you have. I think one of my favorite books is also Elephant in Drindle, and I you gave me a copy of it when I met. I want to begin my first question with that because it has a quite an interesting. It felt a personal project. It felt like a father's letter to a daughter, and the fact that I could read it and the fact that I could get it from you, And I did go through it obviously for this for this podcast. But I want to begin with a quote, and I'm going to quote from that book. The world is our home. We never stop exploring. We are one big family, and I show you, and you show me. I think this is the chorus you've written along with a beautiful book. Uh, I want to start with this chorus, Arun. Maybe through the chorus, I see that there is a lot of journey you've had, uh, especially moving from India, seeing the world, and then trying to come back. Help us understand a bit more about what made you write this chorus. What are some experiences in your journey you've seen? Maybe highlighting points would be great.
First of all, thanks for highlighting the book. Elephant in the Middle is a book written for children. But second, I can't take credit for that. That was written by Susanna.
Okay.
Susanna is this wonderful, wonderful, amazing person. I actually, again, I get the chance to work with her as at Freshworks. She was
Yeah.
a marketing director for our European, and then she left, and then she started writing this children's book. And I was very, I would say, honored to be participant in it. But why I joined and did this with her is basically the theme of like there's an element of humanism there. I think both myself and Susanna, we have like mixed children from different cultures, and so it's really nice to bring that. The book is actually targeted for children from multiple cultures,
Yeah.
and so I think that's why the song and that what I like about that and from my own life is like I was always a seeker in the sense of constantly seeking new experiences and opportunities and new lands. And so while I traveled and lived in different places, it basically brought out, you quickly understand the differences. But what strikes after a few times is the commonality that we as humans exist in this blue dot hanging in the universe, so to speak. There is a lot to connect each other, and while the differences are there to celebrate, the core is there for us to comfort, and that's what I like about.
Very nice. I love it. And obviously, the whole book has everything from the dosa recipes to the cultural heritage, and I think it's a great platform. Someday I do feel like writing a children's book and like an ode to all the great fathers and mothers and all the parents out there, right? In the book also, and I remember when we were meeting in Leela Palace, you spoke about this 5 C's and the concept around it. What are your lessons from it? Could for the viewers also, if you could double click on what those 5 C's are and the principles you have. I really love them, so I want to be using this platform to also let others know. So, if you don't mind, Arun, what is those 5 C's? What are you trying to? What are the lessons someone can learn, or you yourself have learned from it?
Yeah, so I guess it's like it's like being in McKinsey for so long, you just come up with frameworks and letters like this. I'm sure my children will laugh at that. But net, it's about as I pondered when raising children, few things struck me is I'm a product of the, I would say, mid 80s in India, socialist India. The life was all about scarcity, celebrations of simple things. There were many things which are very, very different.
Yeah.
Now, what can I actually teach to kids growing up in 2020s in Western Europe, and especially for someone like me? I realized actually I can't just simply say this is what I was told, this is what my parents taught me. It's just not going to work. So that was the I would say the journey to start with, like what exactly. So slowly and steadily, again with my daughter, we basically at one point there were 7 C's. Now we condensed it to 5 C's. At one point, my daughter thought each year she's getting older, she'll get another C. So the 5 C's are nothing but it's compassion, curiosity, connection, creativity, and courage. More or less like almost like a corporate values for an individual. And essentially what I wanted to basically tell myself is like, if I'm successful in, creating the right values for my children, what would that be?
Mm.
And it's not the traditional notions of success. When I grew up, it was all about financial success or security, not necessarily success. But world has changed, and I don't think they will be operating into the same constraints. So I wanted them to be first and foremost compassionate to themselves and everything around them. And with that compassion, they love them to lean into every situation with curiosity versus judgment. Curiosity about why certain things, if they have the curiosity to anytime they see one end of the rope, to go all the way to the other end to see how things work, why, what's the motivations of people, and so on. So I think the third is the connection.
Mm.
Uh, if you're compassionate with anybody or anything, or whether it's any species, any living thing, and if you're curious, you can connect. You can always find a connection.
Yeah.
And connection, initially we had communication. Then we said, no, no, communication is a way to connect. And when a lot of, when you say communication, it's about how you're articulating. But very quickly you'll learn when you're leading with curiosity, connection is all about listening and observing. So, and if you're able to do all that, then you have a good understanding. Then it's your time to be creative. And in the world of ChatGPT and AI, I don't think the mundane will be, left to the humans. Machines will take care of it. It's our job to connect things that across multidisciplinary and so on. So that's the connection part. The last one is courage. Being a father of a girl, I just want to make sure that they should have the courage to, stick to their goals, stick to who they are, and stand up for not, I would say, the most privileged and so on. So if I could tell that they hit all the five C's, I consider myself a happy, content parent. Maybe the content is the sixth C.
There you go. That's probably for the parents, the sixth C.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome. No, I love it. And I remember the creativity, the connectedness over and over again with my own kids as well, right? And it's not, some of these values are not taught, but it's just probably unearthed because a lot of them carry that. And you just have to move out as a parent and let them lead in many of these. So I love it. And I wanted to bring these two because I think it is an important lesson delivered in a very impactful and yet fun way through the book, and you quoted both of those. So I wanted to begin this with that. But before we come to India, Arun, I want to be asking few questions to the global citizen, Arun. And the last time when you and I were in New York, you were walking me through the house you had in Manhattan, and you were sort of looking at. And I also know when I met you in Germany, you had this beautiful, in a beautiful park, in a beautiful neighborhood, you had a house there. And then a dancing frog at Madikeri. So this question is like from Manhattan to Madikeri, right? What had that? What had? How have you? How different have you seen the world ever since you left India? How has that played a role in any of those five C's yourself? But you being outside India and learning from that whole experience.
Manhattan Medicare, I like that. M&M. Uh, I guess this is a much deeper question, like how has the experience has been? Um, I guess India was, at least for a large part, a safe childhood and content, but very much also in some ways a constraining society. Societal values are very restricted. And as a teen and as a early 20s, you're this rebel. You want to question everything, and India is a tough place to be doing that. So I think the first experience for me was living in the States, and where suddenly you go from a constrained society to, I would say, full-blown individualism, right? Like everything starts with I and ends with I. And so that was like a little heady mix, but it did help with the finding yourself. finding your boundaries. And, when you look at the five C's, I guess compassion and all came much later for me in the sense of it was more about a lot of curiosity and connecting with people from all over the world and being courageous and trying a lot of different things. I got into mountaineering while I was in the States, started climbing all kinds of mountains, which was not accessible being growing up in South India. Yes, there were mountains. The highest is 2,000 meters, I guess.
Yeah.
Here you are suddenly going about 4,000 meters and so on. It was fascinating. So there was a lot of that, trying all kinds of sports and adventure activities and such. So that was more like your early 20s to, I would say, mid 30s. And so to me, the sheer wealth that was United States and the sheer set of opportunities which were never available in India. You can't go skiing or you can't go sailing, and these kind of things were probably didn't exist or very privileged for very, very few, select few. So that was I would say, the biggest. And I lived in the Pacific Northwest.
Mm.
And, I still remember this once I was driving along Columbia River.
Mm.
And this is a river. I've never seen a river that big. And I had tears in my eyes because I come from Chennai where we had to stand in line to get a bucket of water during summer to take a shower. And here it is at its widest point, I would say. Columbia River is more than a mile wide or something near, and it's just full all the time. And I was just fascinated, and so much beautiful things. And to me, it connected me to nature because of its accessibility and the abundance of it, which was very, very, I would say, stark. And I miss it actually. When I moved to New York, I missed it quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I love the abundance of it. And I've also noticed that there is that element of openness, a lot more open. And India, you're right. It feels like a little more because there aren't as many spots, right? And there are just too many viewing points and all. So I understand. Yeah, yeah. And in this part of your journey, Arun, you've done the US, you've lived in Europe with Freshworks, and even now you continue to. Do you see a lot of elements of India within this as well? Do you see places where there is an overlap or connectedness on the heritage or on a deeper sense, even within nature as well, from your childhood to where you are at the moment?
That's a very interesting question. Like, there's a saying, right? Like you can take a person out of India, but you can never take India out of the person. So
Yeah,
India is you. For me, it was it was always there. It takes a long, long time to actually cut the cards, and you can never cut everything. So, for instance, the first 3 years while I was in States, I was still reading Indian newspapers. That's how I get the news from.
yeah.
And this was internet was fairly already there. I'll just read up what's happening in India, and that's how I got this. I saw the world. Then I
Mm.
started switching to local media. Then you saw, okay, there is a different way.
Yeah.
People are, and then slowly, you are initially always eating Indian food, and then you start exploring, and then your intake goes down. But there are certain things which it's still there. It will never, I guess, it's there until your last breath. And so then that's what connects you to just some of the values, the deep-rooted values about the community, being caring, being open and inviting, a lot of spontaneity, a lot of tolerance, and a lot of patience. Living in India teaches you all these things. You cannot, when I live in Germany, when people get upset about certain things where rules are not followed, I'm like, you won't survive an hour in India because, and it's a different way to do things. It's a different culture. But then what it teaches you is like you are so tolerant, so patient, so persistent, and so collaborative and things like that. And somebody was asking about why there are so many leaders from India leading some of these Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. Because they have these qualities. I think that's what's needed to lead large organizations. Right now, you see whether it's Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai and people like that. And so many, it's just, I think this is something that is within India where you can never take it away. And
Yeah.
in terms of what you see when you connect it back to nature, um, sadly the feeling you get is like, wow,
Mm.
India has so much things, but it's not taken that well care like in the Western world.
Mm.
So in the US, the national parks was such a gift to humanity. What they have accomplished is I don't see that many national parks in Europe. I do see quite a bit in some parts of the around the Alps and both in Italy, Switzerland, and other places. But what US has is unprecedented. And then you think about saying, why not? You
Yeah.
know, and then you see the rampant development and degradation of some of the ecosystems that's in India. That's when you feel a more ache
Yeah.
uh, because there is so much biodiversity and so much I would say variety. There is India has pretty much all the way to alpine forests to deserts to rainforests to old growth forests like that on the Madikeri. It's just fascinating. It's not that many countries can boast something like that, but I really really wish the efforts like you and what your colleagues are doing can awaken that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of supporters.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And I know I don't have the amount of experience. Most of my travel outside India have been on business, but even then, I kind of feel like places like Japan and all of them have inculcated this footfall and nature in such a beautiful way that often my question has always been, why not, right? It's not like it can't be done. It's not like humans are always cruel all the time. There are beautiful examples, even with India as well. There are so many examples of places where, like Ladakh and Leh, and all of these are still so beautiful and all. So I completely agree with you, and I feel like one of the big reasons why we began Mycelium was also to see answer this question on why not. When you and I were discussing about onboarding on Dancing Frog, there's one thing you mentioned which sort of stood on with me is this notion of you dreaming about being within nature, having a tiny home community. Why is nature important to you? What has it done to you? Why is it important? Why do you seek answers? If you do seek answers, do you seek answers within nature? Why is it important?
It's more important now than ever, Vinod. And I think one is there is not a single person I know that you take them on some time in nature. I'm talking about not like finely manicured city parks, but
Yeah.
like real nature. You see their eyes dilate, smiles go up, calming down. There's nothing like it because at the core, we need that. And it's more important now as we are actually getting all into our respective virtual bubbles in the world of screen time and social media, and this is more important. In addition, if I look at the other angle, which is it's just a declining footprint of what's in nature. And I earlier talked about like the US, so why is that in the US and why it's not in the India? So then I realized like as a child growing up, it was not allowed to go into the forest.
Mm,
It was something to be feared,
mm,
and it has to be with so much, I would say, restriction. It's a lot of no, but in years, what I saw was it yes and. So most people think of that as a good vacation to go somewhere, to camp, to go. The more you see, there's more people who become converts and I would say missionaries to the cause of like protecting that. I'm not getting into the politics of the green and so on, but it's just purely to protect it and then make it accessible. I think this is the fundamental thing that can actually change people from not only protecting these forests, but also changing our mindset from more and more and more
Mm.
of what,
Yeah.
to actually uh, more quality time and interaction with what connects us all, which is in this case, in my opinion, it's nature.
Love it, love it, and yeah, I mean, obviously, I love the fact that I'm going to be neighbor even for a small period of time with you. But when we began this journey of looking at the Dancing Frog Collective, one of the big ideas, or rather, one of the big thinking points we had was: are we making nature investment more accessible? And I want you to don your Mackenzie's hat all the way through the real estate purchases you've made all across all the places where you've lived. Have you found a way, or rather, have we made it easy as a collective to be able to invest into nature here? Are there other models you've seen from where you are, from all your experiences, which we could learn? So the long and short is: should we invest in nature? If yes, what are some thoughts or ideas you have, including Dancing Frog Collective?
Yeah, very interesting question. I would say let's take aside investment from a real estate standpoint and a nature preservation standpoint, different topics. Nature preservation is a topic that is done mostly through public, I would say, funding and governmental institutions in most of the West. So I would say a lot has to do with some of the leadership. If you ever want to interested, you have to read about Teddy Roosevelt. He's an avid, nature person, and then he created this whole notion of national parks and so on and so forth. I don't think we have that. If India had a leadership who are like that and who actually are naturists and spend a lot of time, they'll go so far to do that. Number one. Now, having said that, the public, the private, or in terms of from a real estate and so on, real estate investing is very hard. Any country, I would say, especially when rule of law is not super clear, or registries and things like that, and then also the other question is the cross border payments and taxation and things like that. This is like a nightmare. No matter if you think, okay, you know what, you want to do something for India, but being not an Indian citizen, it becomes very difficult to invest. And I think what you accomplished with the dancing frog is a quite a makes it much easier
Mm, mm,
as a kind of a shareholder for this nature trust, so to speak, with a very clear purpose of not exploitation, but more like a preservation and discovery and engagement and so on. So it makes it very, very, I would say, inviting, hassle-free, and easy. So I think I wish more of this is possible, and in particular for people like me who are not looking for a financial gain in this particular case. It's more about like how do we preserve this for the future, and meanwhile have a chance at having access and enjoying it. So I think there's a lot to celebrate about what how you guys are thinking about. And I wish that you guys can continue to use this pilot to learn and continue to double down and make it much bigger. I really like the goal of 10,000 acres, and this is what a lot of billionaires do in West.
yeah,
They buy huge,
yeah.
100,000 acre land and just leave it as it is. Yeah, wish we
Correct.
could do
Yeah. Yeah. Wish we could do that. I saw a big thing, in Mumbai, the Taj Lands ends where a mega star stays, and it's like a 1 lakh or 2 lakh per square feet. So
Yeah.
I hope that someday we say dancing frogs are here. So it's like the value of the land becomes big. But that's probably a segue into my next question, Arun. From a investment perspective, I know you mentioned uh, you don't look at the return of investment, but the as soon as you put the word investment, there is always some return which is there. So when you, from your experience of being a global citizen and back to some inspiration for India and organizations in India, how else could you think about investment in nature beyond monetary? Are there any examples? Are there any other benefits? Like one is taking a person there, they're becoming happy, a life-changing experience. Sure, I think it connects deeply. Are there any other examples or anecdotes you could share within Portugal, elsewhere?
So let me understand. So you're asking for other types of benefits that you can get?
Other types of benefits you see yourself getting from it, or people perceive from nature, which is probably missing out because it's always tied to monetary value. Why
Yeah.
you buy X and then it grows to Y.
Yeah. I think there's two types of motivations, right? Like first and foremost, if you take monetary, then you behave very differently. But if you take that out and if you say, okay, I'm putting my hard-earned money into something um, for an infinite amount of reasons. And there, it really depends on how deep you're committed to the cause. So for instance, there is a Tamil movie. Yeah, I don't know whether you remember Devar Mahan. He talks about, you know, only if I plant the seed, your son will enjoy the fruits of the seed, tree. That's it's a very pithy statement, but it's basically true. I'm close to 50, and anything I do that's long term, I'm not going to see the benefit of it. So you have to think about the future, and you have to believe in a certain future, and you have to really, really be an optimist to assume that you can make a difference. All these are like a little bit crazy, and
Yeah,
depends on how you see the world.
yeah,
And if you do that, I think there is so many things, and that's where the benefit, the concept of benefit, goes beyond you, the self, and your family and your community. It can go way beyond. Then that's when you include the animals which are living there, the
love it.
bugs and insects, the plants. All of them are a product of millions of years of evolution. Of course, we can always make an argument, Earth will be fine, these animals come and go, they will be extinct, new things will come. But the core point is, should be the one, we be the one who's causing that extinction? We are the ones which are celebrated as who are, I would say, good guardians or curators of what is out there. And we just finished I was watching with my daughter. I think it's a Netflix series called Nature. It's like a 6 or 8 episode. Morgan Freeman is the voice of it. And then you realize that humans have been such a short time in the overall span of life on the planet Earth. It's actually, dinosaurs were at least like 150, 200 million years. They were just roaming around, and there's various species have dominated. We've been there probably the shortest, but in that time, we have had the highest impact than anybody else. And so far, it has not been positive. And I think it's time for us to turn this around, because imagine with such power that we have on what's around, and if you're able to turn it around, and this can be phenomenal. And what we are doing is probably a small drop in the bucket, but it's just get the consciousness going towards people to say, because every time somebody goes to the forest, walks out, some switch has to happen. If that happens, that's the most powerful thing.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Was there a moment in your life where that switch happened? Was it the Columbia River thing, or when you said you found compassion later? Was there a moment when that compassion led to connectedness for you?
The switches that happened in nature for me happened in India. This was mostly as a young kid, my father once took me to the Ayappa Swami trek, and this is, I'm talking early 80s. So
Wow.
that means it's not what it is today. I heard it's pretty brutal and not so nice these days, but it was stunning. You know, the streams where you take a bath and you walk and
That
so
was
on.
true nature, right? Tigers roaming around. You don't know
It
where
was
it's
true
coming
nature.
from.
It
Yeah.
was true nature. And they used to have, I still remember that as you walk, we were walking in the middle of the night, and there used to be a person where you can give him 50 cents, and then they will explode a sound so to avoid the tigers coming to the trek paths. So I don't know how, but it was fascinating. And then also,
Placebo or not, right? You don't know whether it's a placebo or not. You're
exactly.
sure, which means it worked.
Yeah, you don't want to have an encounter with the tiger in the middle of the night. So the other thing was, this is something I'll never forget. I was probably in the seventh grade or so, and my grandmother's sister, they had an estate, a tea estate in near the forest in Kerala. I don't know the precise location now, and so you have to trek a day to get there. There are no roads. And we went there and stayed, and they were really debating. It was mostly the adults who went there, and they were debating whether to take me or not. I had to make a big case that I will be fine, I won't cry, and nobody has to do X, Y, Z. Because I was a big boy, but still they were worried. So we stayed there in the estate. And when I say this estate, there is just like an old stone building there. And it was mostly for lychee they had. And they used to actually have two stories. And an upper story, they had a facility where you dry all the stuff and you smoke it. So we were actually sleeping there. No electricity, nothing for 8 days or something like that. And basically living off the land. And I will never forget that.
I can imagine.
And
Yeah.
so for me, that's the switch moment. And every day you wake up, sit there, and it was so loud.
Yeah.
Just the animals, just the bugs, all kinds of bugs. They make so much sound. And every day you frequently see snakes, and there is a small stream by that where it becomes there's a waterfall, and
Sure.
that's where you take a morning bath. It's just like just living like what they show in some movie where you're living in the middle of the woods, and that was the I would say the moment. And to your question, like say where the compassion switch happened, that came much later. You know, it combined with some of my yoga practices. Previously, I didn't have that. I was probably not the most compassionate person in my 20s or even 30s. And then that opened my eyes towards that, and it came much later.
Love it. And talking about, I mean, I'm surprised you say that you're not compassion, but I think beyond Dancing Frog Collective, more than Dancing Frog Collective, in fact, I think your work with Nia is even more compassionate, right? Could you talk a little bit about what is your goal? Uh, what have you been some highlights on it? And I wanted you to sort of speak about the project Nia. Am I pronouncing it Nia, right?
Nia is very, very, Nia, the power of choice, how it
Power
works.
of choice. Yes, yes.
So thank you for bringing that up. So Nia was it's part guilt, part the need to do something. So
Mm,
the guilt part was like I still remember going to India after being in the States for 3 or 4 years. I got my master's and I got a job at Intel. I bought my first car and I had some money in the bank and I was coming to India as if this person who's like slightly successful, you know, you have this aura and the world has just opened up for me, right?
mm,
So I came down to India and I saw some of the women the girls I used to play with growing up, and they were all married or had already the second child or something. Nothing wrong with that. All I knew was they were much more some street smart and savvy and hardworking than me. They just didn't have the choice. So I felt like their life has gotten richer. Children are always amazing, but it's not the choice. They made that sequence. It was just imposed, and so I felt very guilty. Number one. And the second is I attended a speech in San Francisco about like and Shashi Tharoor was there, and he was speaking. And somebody asked him, "What's one thing you would do to change the world?" And he said, "Educate girls." So that stuck with me because it's just two words. And then made the case of when you do that, they tend to stay in school longer. They tend to get married later. They tend to have less children. They used to plow more of their earnings into family, and their children used to be more healthier and more educated. And apparently it also leads to democracy, and democratic countries don't go to war against each other. It's just like the story how he built was fascinating. I was convinced. I was like, okay, this is it. I need to find something I want to do. So I
Yeah.
started with some of my friends, and this was almost 20 years ago, and I was still very young, I would say, at the time. And all I thought was like the American philanthropic model at the time was, you become very successful, and as you get older, you donate all your money. And this is what Buffett is doing, Gates is doing, all these foundations and so on. I thought maybe I'll never get rich, and so I said, okay, whatever I have, I want to give something away. And then they realize there's a power of numbers. There's a lot of people are like that. They're not going to become billionaires, but they can all contribute. And
Yeah.
then the currency exchange made it also anything that we could raise at the time in the US, we were able to help a lot more of people.
Yeah.
So we help, I would say, thousands of women, girls get a better opportunity and the power of choice. And they could choose to do, if they want to get married, have children when they're 21, they can do it, of course. But they can also say, you know what, I want to go work in an IT company. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. And this is what it's a choice. I think that's freedom. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I'm truly, truly inspired. When I heard it, obviously many years ago from you. And a lot of what, even now, I continue to look, how I look at the family comes from inspirations from you. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And one final question for this episode, Arun, is what advice would you have for somebody who is either in India or outside India, a true citizen of India, global citizen? What advice would they give if they're considering investing in a collective like Dancing Frog Collective?
I would say if you want to have an impact, uh, you need to join forces. And that could take many, many forms. A collective or community is, I would say, one of the best way because you're going to meet like-minded people and you spar off and you create this satsang of people who actually share and reinforce the beliefs and encourage each other because it's not an easy task to create such an impact. So that's it. Otherwise, unless if you're a billionaire, you don't need a collective.
You can do it all by
You are
yourself.
the collective. If you're not going to be a billionaire, yeah, I think this is the better option for the non-billionaires, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, love it. And even if you're a billionaire, when you're in the forest, you're alone, irrespective, right? You still need the collective,
At the end of the
including the
day, everybody eats the same amount of food.
exactly.
India has the same amount of beer, drinks the same amount of water. I think it's in the end. There is something deep inside you, whatever you want to call it, whatever your beliefs are. And whether it's happy or sad, it's individual. No one can make you happy or sad. Nothing can make you happy or sad. And the best thing that makes you happy, in my opinion, is the giving and sharing and being part of a community. I think that's what
I
basics.
love it. You closed it out so well, and I wish we had a lot of time, which I'm hoping we have it in the forest in Dancing Frog whenever you're visiting us. But the this I had always dreamt. When I picked up the phone and spoke to you for the first time, I knew at some point I'm going to be sitting down with you, talking about this. So I kind of feel like this session has just begun. We may be ending this podcast now and we may be doing whatever we can. But I feel like this, you said, join the force, join the satsang. This is the kind of force I want to be able to join. So I really thank you for the time, Arun. I know how busy you are to take a CRO out on a quarter beginning when there is a planning on a Sunday. Between you planning your family's trip and me putting my kids to bed before I come and meet you, I think this is what it is all about, is that passion towards doing it. And I'm absolutely thrilled that I had you here. We got to sit down and speak about it. And there are a lot of lessons for me, but I think I want to be able to re-emphasize that, with the chorus back again, because I think it summarizes. Suzanne's written it. I think I'm going to use it because I've seen it, but I think it comes, which is that the world is our home. We never stop exploring. We are one big family. I show you and you show me, and I think it perfectly fits you, your inspirations, and it's truly an honor to be doing this, Arun. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vinod, for what you're doing. I can't wait to, sit on the porch in the forest as neighbors and
Yeah,
share stories. Can't wait. Really looking forward to that. Yeah.
thank you, Arun. Thank you. Yeah.